Hey there, welcome to Coffee with Connie. I'm Connie Fuksa. Hope you guys are having an amazing start to your day. So today, a lot of times Coffee with Connie is all about talking to you about things that you may have questions about, maybe some motivational stuff to help you understand yourself a little better, things that have to do with real estate, buying and selling real estate, all the nuances and the things that go into the purchase, the mortgage, the closing, what happens after closing, a lot of things that I hear about that have to do with not only the closing itself, but also all the pieces that go into that are available with the closing. So what I try to do is come to you guys with lots of good information that maybe answer some questions that you might have, or maybe things that you weren't thinking about that you now understand a little bit better. So a couple times a week I like to talk to you about real estate things, and then a couple times a week I try to talk to you about other things, finding some passion in some things that you do, maybe why you do things, maybe motivating your team, a lot of different things that I've experienced in my business that maybe could help you out. So today I wanted to talk to you specifically about the money that you need for closing. Where do those figures come from, and how are they developed? Who is in control of that? Who's responsible for giving those numbers? And how come it takes so long for it all to come together? So I want to talk about this because it seems like a common thread right now that maybe there's some miscommunication or confusion about how that all comes together. So I'm going to take a few minutes just to explain that process to you, because a lot of people seem to think that the company that does the closing for you is the one that develops all those figures, and that they are the holdup for the reason you can't get those numbers timely in order to get your information that you need and to know what those numbers are before you actually walk into the closing. And that's absolutely not true. The title company's job is to do several different things, but one of those is to pull all the pieces of the closing together for you. So when you come to sign all of your paperwork, you're actually doing that with all of the things that you've had to sign, all of the agreements that you've made, all of the certifications that you need to pay for, all of the fees that you need to pay. We compile all those from all these different areas. And I say we because I have owned a title company for a little more than 30 years. And so seeing a lot of these experiences, I can explain that side to you. It's the one piece that a lot of people don't understand. They think that the title company is the one that moves all of that and gets all that information together. So, and is in control of how it's provided to you. And that's not true in the respect that there's lots of different places that all those numbers come from. The real estate agent and the real estate contract have some information that needs to be provided. The seller's payoff information, the loan that they owe on that house, that's information that we have to gather. The mortgage company supplies a lot of those figures because those are costs in order to obtain your loan. And so those numbers come to us from the mortgage company, and sometimes they don't come until very much at the last minute because they're still working through getting the approvals taken care of that are needed. Remember, you're borrowing an awful lot of money, and they want to make sure that loan money is secure. So they want to make sure that you have the ability to repay that loan, and also that the home value will support that loan in case they ever had to repossess, foreclose, take back that home to be able to recuperate their loan. So the lender has to go through a lot of approval processes in a very short period of time to make sure that the value of that property and that your ability to repay are there, and that they can get those assurances that their loan will be repaid. So the mortgage company comes up with a lot of those figures. Excuse me. They provide the title company with a lot of those numbers. What the costs are to borrow the money, how much the interest is, what the costs are that they're going to set aside in escrow to make sure your taxes and insurance are paid, how much the loan actually is going to be based on what you actually need, what you were approved for. So they provide a lot of those figures, and then they provide most of the documentation that needs to be signed for closing. And usually that comes at the last minute because there's several reasons. One, if you've been working through your loan process and it's been a quick process, then the lenders scurry in to try to get all those pieces together. And they have several different levels of people that touch those documents. That you deal with your loan officer and his or her processor, and that person is the administrative person that helps get all of those pieces together. And then it goes to underwriting, which is the person that approves that loan, that all of the information they've gathered and they've supplied supports that you'll have the ability to repay. And then it goes to their closing department, who prepares all the paperwork and all the numbers and supplies it to the title company. And so that is another source of information for the title company. But when your mortgage lender, the person you've been dealing with, says, yeah, we're all approved, it doesn't mean that the title company gets all that information at that moment. It still has to go through some processes, particularly the person in the closing department providing that information. And then the title company does gather information from other sources. The recording fees that the county is going to charge, any last minute bills that the county may have that need to be taken care of there, any last minute things the seller needs to have to get taken care of that we need to include on those documents. So there's a lot of different sources, and the timing is different depending on where that information is coming from. Is there any certifications? Is there a home warranty? What's the amounts for those items? And we need that paperwork in order to put that package together. So when someone tells you that the title company has everything they need, it may be that we haven't received all of the documentation yet. And a lot of times that's very close to the time that you're going to close. So please understand that when the title company is putting those numbers and information together, usually we're getting them close to when you're actually going to be coming into closing, and it takes a few minutes to put all that together, not only to put it together, but then we have to work with the closing department at the mortgage company to make sure that the way we understand that they send everything over is exactly what they're expecting, and that all the numbers match and work for their approval of that loan. So it's a process with several different people involved and several different levels of people involved. So when the title company is working on those numbers for you, please understand that they're not getting them to you because they're working on other people's files, or they're not paying attention to you, or they're waiting till the last minute. Absolutely not true. I mean, of course, I will say if it's a busy time, they're working on them in the order of when they close, because that's the fair part of the process and to take care of it. But more than likely, they're waiting for pieces to come in order to get that final information for you and get that approval back and forth through the lender, through your realtors, to make sure that everything that you intended to agree to is exactly the way the title company understands it by reading the contract. So before we actually give it to you and put it in your hands to be reviewed, we want to make sure that there isn't anything that we misunderstood or didn't see in that process as we were gathering all that information. So we like to have everybody look at it to make sure that it's all what you expected it to be before you get that final number, so there's not any last minute confusion and jockeying with those numbers for you. So I just want to clear up a little bit of that confusion, but if you have more questions about that, please feel free and let me know. I just wanted you to understand that the title company's job is to gather all the information and then supply it to you at the closing, and some of it doesn't come till the last minute because of all the different places it comes from. So hopefully I helped you guys understand a little bit more about what's going on in that process when you're buying that house. And I really appreciate you tuning into Coffee with Connie. I'd love to see you get one of these cool coffee mugs so you can share Coffee with Connie when we do broadcasts. All you have to do is click that share button at the bottom. I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in. I'm Connie Fuksa. Thank you for tuning in to Coffee with Connie. I'll talk to you again real soon. Have a fantastic day, guys.